And then every week, 15 minutes of making out. Remember when you used to make out and how turned on you would get?
What is your best advice for a woman who says, I just don't want to have sex with my husband?
Right. Well, this is a big issue. Where I usually start with my clients is figuring out why. So there are a lot of things that could be impacting your sexual libido. One would be medication. One would be any type of mental health thing you have going on, anxiety or depression. You also may need to have some hormonal testing. So if you rule out the biology and you still don't want to have sex with your husband, now we're looking at a relationship issue. And I would really encourage women, first of all, to keep their boundary and say no if they need to say no, and respect that in themselves. But secondly, if you can participate, you might actually start to warm up to the process and get involved and end up enjoying yourself.
Number 2 answer.
Yes.
Sex education.
Yes.
Yeah.
Many women feel that they have to be on a man's schedule. It's like he's ready to go, he doesn't do any foreplay, he puts her right in, and she doesn't naturally lubricate, and it's painful, it's not comfortable. If something's painful or not comfortable, why do you want to do it again?
Right.
So men don't know that. They don't know that you need more time, more stimulation to lubricate, and also to use lubrication as well. But affection, kissing, eye, touching, he needs to know. How do you communicate that to them? Many men and women have a hard time talking about what they want in the bedroom because it's such a vulnerable thing. Because if you say, this is what I want, what if he was to say, well, I'm not going to give that to you? It's just like, what? Your heart is broken. So it just seems so intimate at a moment to feel rejection. And men also have a hard time hearing you asking for more or something different, particularly after 5 years of marriage. He says, well, I've been doing it wrong all this time. It's like, it's hard. So some easy ways to do it one is just get a book on sex and read it together. This is a simple thing to do. I'll recommend my book, Mars, Venus in the Bedroom. And every chapter is designed. Don't read further than one chapter and then the next chapter. And it will just give you a new insight, a new way of understanding so men can begin to understand a woman's body. And often many women don't understand their own body.
I also think that we need to be responsible for our sexuality. And sexuality isn't just sexuality, especially for a lot of women. There's a lot of emotionality besides sexuality. And let's face it, in any culture that we are, and I've worked with a lot of multicultural groups, in any culture we have a lot of shame-based concepts and messages about women. We know that women have been sexually abused in many stages in countries. So I also think that being responsible about knowing what kind of messages we brought from our parents or society about sex is good or sex is bad, were you a slut, were you supposed to sleep with anybody, how many people were you supposed to sleep with, were you supposed to be a virgin or not a virgin, and then all of these shame-based concepts that would come. And then what is about my body? Should I have pleasure? Is it bad for me to have pleasure? Did my religion said it was bad for me to have pleasure? Am I supposed to only create a pleasure for a man, or do I have the right to have pleasure for myself? Do I even have the right to masturbate, or am I going to get blind at one point? I mean, all of these different messages that are embedded. Part of what I do in this model, awareness integration, is to really look at every aspect and what did I get from my parents and how did I relate to sexuality when I was a teenager among my peers, my first dates, how did I learn from them, how did I learn sexuality from my parents, and then incorporate all of that I learned from the society and everyone else, and what did I experience myself, and now what do I choose in learning and taking on from here on.
I think the other thing that's very important is how much pleasure can you tolerate in your body? We're used to being burdened, we're used to being busy, we're used to being tight in our bodies. So what happens when we start to release some of that? The insecurities, the vulnerabilities start to show up. And can you tolerate more and more pleasure in your body? So that's one thing. The other thing is I hear women all the time saying, the only time he touches me is for sex. And so non-sexual touch is a really important part of a relationship. And I give my couples an assignment. Every kiss is at least 10 seconds, not 1 second, 10 seconds. And then every week, 15 minutes of making out. Remember when you used to make out and how turned on you would get? So finding ways to re-enliven yourself, and also to practice non-sexual touch on the body and what feels good.
If you're feeling like the sexual energy has gone out of your life, perhaps you need to look at yourself, consider your own body, your own desires. Are you getting your needs met in your relationship? Are you taking care of yourself? Look at those things, and we believe that the floodgates might open, your sexual energy will come back.